I guess I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Dave Medberry. I do work for PEZ in the commercial engineering server team, and primarily I'm responsible for doing cloud work. That could be OpenStack. It could be working with Microsoft on their Azure, anything deal-oriented around clouds that requires some engineering work. Our team does, and it's pretty much what I'm working on full-time right now. The other folks are working on some other deals. The rest of the team is largely working on ARM stuff at the moment. Okay, so what is Microsoft Cloud? It's an infrastructure as a service, which basically means that it provides virtual computers. So you can use the Microsoft Azure to create virtual servers very easily and quickly. However, it's also a platform as a service. They do have other tools. If you look in the window there, they've got different icons, etc., for showing different aspects. This particular talk is going to focus on using the virtual machine portion or infrastructure as a service. Let's see, I think I'll be jumping around from some different windows. Let me see what the screen, the Microsoft Windows screen again, and I'll get back to my notes. Okay, so let's just jump into it. Account creation. Basically, there's a free trial button. I'm going to go ahead and click that right quick. Your free trial contains compute, which is what I'll be talking about today, 750 small compute hours per month. If you figure that out, that's like a little bit less than 8 hours of a small compute, 5 days a week for a month. It's in that order of magnitude. So they're not really giving you a free month. They're giving you a free partial month. After you use those 750 hours, it shuts down the service. It'll start it up at the end of the month so that you have 3 consecutive months or 90 days of activity. So that's the free trial. Obviously, you can put in credentials. You have to put in credentials when you sign up. And when you do that, it takes a credit card. It doesn't bill that credit card, but it helps them authenticate you. I'm going to click the try for free, but it'll find out that, oh, no, I'm not signed in yet, so I can actually do this. I'll just go ahead and create an account right quick. And I'm just going to use one of my canonical IDs. I think I'm going to use one of my canonical IDs. Oh, actually, you've got to create a Windows Live account first. So what you want to do is go to Windows Live and create a new Windows Live account. And I'm sorry, but so you guys can see some of the issues, I'm going to go ahead and do this right quick. And we're 9 minutes in. Is the auto still working? I'm guessing you guys will holler at me if it stops working. All right, I'll check that mail in a minute. What I'm actually going to do now is actually go and log in with an account I've already set up. All right, it's not going to let me, so hang on a second. I don't really care much for Windows Live accounts. It's kind of tries to be a single sign-on, but it doesn't work very well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click the Get Started. Sign up for a trial. The one point I wanted to make here is after you create this account, you need to actually ask it for virtual machine permission. By default, the account does not include these cloud services that includes creating virtual machines. So you want to do that. And I need to resize this window. Let me just do that right quick. All right. And what I think I'm going to do is actually create a new window using incognito and do the same thing. There we go. It's going to ask for some credit card info, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm not obviously going to turn off screen sharing for a second.
Darn.
Yeah, darn. I'll go ahead and do that. I know there's actually people that can probably decode that just from the sound. Hopefully none of them ever watch this video. I'll just change it afterwards. That's the problem, is that since this is going live, anybody in the world can see that. There's the wrong window. All right, this is one I've already set up. I may jump back to that other window in a minute, but this is one I've already set up. If you look at the URL, it says Manage Windows Azure. That's the URL you want to use. There is an older portal. This is the portal. There is an older portal that does not include, that doesn't work with HTML5. It actually requires Silverlight. You want to use manage.windowsazure.com, and that way you'll find it much more functional. You can see along the left that there's all the items I have in this subscription are shown there. I can look at just the virtual machines or the other cloud services, and again, I'm focusing on virtual machines, so that's really all you're going to hear me talk about. It automatically creates a disk to go with your virtual machine, you can see that that looks like a computer-generated or machine-generated name, and that's the way a virtual machine works. Checking my notes right quick. All right. I'm going to jump back to the other window so you can see this request that you need to make. So hang on a second while I stop that one and share a different window. If I can find the right one. That's the right one. All right. Right after account creation, you end up at this landing page. Okay. And it's going to take you to the Manage button. I'm going to go ahead and click that link and go to the management portal. And once I'm in there, you'll likely see, okay, it wants to see which portal. I want to use the preview portal. That's the one that's called manage.windowsazure.com. And it looks like it's trying to load that now. You don't ever want to use the old panel unless you really are fond of Silverlight, and it does not work with Moonlight. And this should look somewhat like the window you saw before, but of course they've got a little landing page, walk through some screens, some commands, notifications, etc. What you'll see over here is there's no virtual machines. There's not a way to create virtual machines. There's no virtual machines listed. You need to go to the preview site. Let's see, take me to the, no, let's see. We need to request them, and let's see if I can find the right link. That's not it. And it seems to move around, so I don't always find it. Let's see. Yeah, it's just not giving me the option until I create. Let me go back to the old portal, or to the old. Believe me, I walked through this yesterday, and things were in a different place, and I've seen that twice now. So they're definitely doing updates on kind of a daily basis. Let's just go to all the way back to this window. And I am sorry, guys. It's right here. It's preview features. We want to turn on preview features for virtual machines. Sorry about that. So once you do the try it now, it starts to load up the virtual machines. And again, you get a 3-month free trial. That's fine. All right. So that's basically all I wanted to show you in account creation, is that you need to go find that guy, and it's under preview features. Account.windowsazure.com. And while that's building, I'm just going to jump back over to the other window that already has that set up. There we go. All right, and I'm actually going to close that. I think. Yeah. It did basically tell me I was active in that other window. It just took a couple of more seconds. About the time I switched windows, it completed that. I've been asked if I can full screen. I'm not sure. I guess. I don't know what's going on in IRC. I still got my original people, so I'm just going to plow ahead. Apparently YouTube streaming is not working for everyone. Victor, it should be available on playback. Obviously you can't hear this if you're not connected, but once there's playback, I'll make sure that link is available to everyone. All right, so In this window, if you click on the virtual machines that I've previously created, well, let's do that right quick, and it'll provide some additional information. Over on the right, you can see that all of the I think you can see all of the URLs are created with a DNS name of yourchoice.cloudapp.net. And somebody joined or unmuted. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll just go back to what I was talking about. So when you create this, you could just create a machine called canonical.cloudapp.net, etc. You create both the machine name and the DNS name. You can make them the same. When you create the machine name, it checks to make that unique, and then it checks again for uniqueness in the DNS. And sometimes you'll have a conflict, and so your DNS name may not match your machine name. Just be aware of that. All right. So let's go back to the virtual machines page and just create a new one right quick. Once you've logged in, once you've created the account, everything's pretty trivial. I'm just going to click on virtual machine, and I'm going to create from gallery. And I want you to look at this window a little bit. So obviously you can create Microsoft boxes very easily and quickly. You can create a CentOS, a SLES, a Ubuntu server, and an OpenSUSE. Those are the ones that are there basically for everybody to use. And we put this Ubuntu server image in there. Ben Howard from the Ubuntu engineering server team. He works for, I think he works for Antonio Rosales underneath Robbie, and he did the work to get this up and running. So I'm going to click that guy. I'm going to create an Ubuntu server. Scroll down a little bit so I can, let's just shrink it a little bit. There we go. Now I can see the window. Go to the next page. Virtual machine name. Let's do InfoSession. I think I need to do 2. Create a user. I don't like this part, but you actually are forced to create a password. You can't log in with just an SSH. You actually have to create a password even if you're using SSH. You can upload an SSH key for authentication. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll talk about that a bit more in a few minutes. And there we go. And go on to the next page. Now it wants you to create a DNS name, and you can see that it automatically appends cloudapp.net. I'm going to choose everything else to be automatic. And there. Now I've got a server launching. One thing I've noticed is a lot of times after it sets up the server turns off. You need to restart it. We'll see that in a couple of minutes. You can set up basically as many of these as you want, but they all consume that 750 hours, and they consume it in a scaled fashion. So if you set up something larger than a default machine, let me just create a new one here, and you can see some of those choices. I won't actually complete this one. I'm just walking through the same thing again. And what I want to point out is that you can choose a variety of different sizes. You can choose an extra large, which has 8 cores, 14 gig of memory. I will tell you by default, I think the extra small is a 30 gig machine. I think they're all 30 gig machines because the image we uploaded is a 30 gig machine, but there are ways to add storage to that. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this creation. I just wanted to show you those size options. Again, by default, you get 750 of these small hours per month. And if you look, it still says it's provisioning, and PitchMe is still running. And let's see if I've missed anything in my notes from setting this up. Okay, account creation. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is actually log into PitchMe, which is this virtual machine I created yesterday. And I need to unshare this window and share a different one so you can see that. Let's screen share. I'll just log out and log back in so you can see that it's nothing magical here. By default, it does create, it asks you what account to create, and I always create Ubuntu, lowercase. That's typically what's done automatically in most of our cloud images. But with Microsoft, I actually just request that one as well. I have loaded a key into PitchMe, so it's not asking me the password. But again, you're required to set one up, whether you use it or not. You can unset it once you're in there, but sudo actually requires it as well. So if I do sudo ls, it's going to ask me for the password. The way it's set up by default, of course, you can change that. Here's PitchMe. One of the things I wanted to show you is this package, WA Linux Agent. This is a package that we need to put into any image that goes onto Microsoft Azure because in order for Microsoft to assign an IP address and a DNS name and all that jazz, it needs a way to talk to the instance, and it uses this Python script to do that. And the Python script is really just user SBIN WA agent. It was provided by Microsoft, been tweaked a little bit more for Quantal and the SRU 12041. You're seeing kind of the earliest version in this existing instance. When I chose what kind of machine to create earlier, I created an image. There's only one available right now. It's very close to Precise plus basically this package. And with Precise and this package, you've pretty much got everything you need. And so we've preloaded this package in there. Let's see what else I have for notes. Okay. I'm going to jump back. Now that I've shown you that basically works, I'm going to jump back over to the portal and show you one more thing. If I can find the right window. No, wrong window. All right, we'll drill in. You can see that InfoSession 2 is now running. Let's take a look at it because I've obviously not done anything with it. It didn't stop, so just be aware that sometimes once it is created, it automatically turns it off. And it's when I say automatically, I should say randomly. This one I did not have to restart. It's just there running. The dashboard kind of shows you some usage that it's had, which is basically nothing. So I'm really not entirely sure that it is running. One of the things that happens is that it created an endpoint for me. An endpoint is basically a firewall tunnel. So SSH has been enabled, port 22 is open, and that's in part because we need a way to talk to it. But you might create a machine without an endpoint, and you might need to go in here and manually create one. I will tell you that usually fails. It'll create the endpoint, but SSH won't actually be running yet, and so you might not actually get a machine that you can talk to, at which point you can just go kill it. In fact, let's go back to the virtual machines, and I'm going to go ahead and kill InfoSession 2 since I don't actually need it. Down here at the bottom.
Is there a virtual console you can access?
Go ahead.
Is there a virtual console you can access when you can't get at the SSH session?
Not that I found, no. So a lot of, as the caller said, a lot of times there is a virtual console that you can also access from this dashboard. At least for Ubuntu images, there is not. I don't think there is for the other Linuxes either, but I haven't actually tried to find one. I've only tried to find it in Ubuntu. So you don't get to a console. You don't get to log in any other way, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this InfoSession 2 one that I just created. Turning off a machine, doing a shutdown, does shut down the machine, but it does not turn off the hours that that machine consumes. I think that's a design flaw in what they've done. They do tell you that, though. So if you do a shutdown, that machine is still consuming your hours. And I presume once the free period's over, that machine would still actually be costing you money. Oh, there. I've deleted InfoSession 2. It's actually trying to delete it right now. PitchMe is still running. PitchMe was just a throwaway name I created for a throwaway machine. All right. I'm going to jump back over to PitchMe now. I think I've shown you everything I want to with the GUI. I'm going to look at IRC. I don't know if anybody's actually watching the stream anymore. But if you've got questions, again, use IRC, and I'll pay attention to it periodically. Let me screen share that, and go ahead and screen share. We did have a third joiner at the end. I need to screen share this guy. Here's just a Google Hangouts with on the air tip. When you go to select a window to share, you need to click on the first window it draws, which is like your entire desktop, and then use arrow keys to navigate to the right one. Something is broken in the graphics, and it won't actually let you select other windows via mouse pick. All right, I think you can see my terminal again. Dan, you asked the question that I'm about to get to. That's why I've gone back to this virtual machine. I'm actually going to install on this virtual machine API tools so that you can do all this from the command line. You don't have to do anything except account creation inside of the portal. So the first thing you want to do is add this repository. Sudo add apt repository ppa ut lemming Azure builds. I've actually already added this one earlier, but I don't think it hurts to add it again. We'll see. And now I've got that repository. Then you need to actually add some tools. You need Node.js, which is what the command line tool uses. So basically, NPM and Node.js are required. They're already actually installed. I did that a few minutes before the start of the meeting as well. After you add bins PPA, you do need the apt-get update. I skipped that step, but partly because these tools are already installed. But apt-get update, and then install the NPM and Node.js tool. This will give you a custom Node.js that comes out of Ben's repository. So be aware of that. If you've already got Node.js installed, this is going to change that to a version that has at least one tweak that he needed. Once you've done that, you actually need to install the Azure client. And I'm going to jump tabs and grab that command because I don't actually have that one. I wanted to do that live. So hang on a second while I do a little navigation. I sent out some links ahead of this meeting. I think this is one of the pages that I sent out links to. All right, so we're going to install Azure using NPM. It's not packaged. It's not an Ubuntu package. It's actually using NPM. And it's going to go grab that and all of its dependencies. And hopefully this works. If it doesn't work, we'll just jump down to my machine. All right, so now we've got Azure installed. If I say which Azure user local bin Azure is there. All right, so let's just run it. And it gives a nice help telling you things you can do. Each of these, it's a domain-specific language. I think that's the term people use these days. Basically, I guess I wouldn't even call it that. It's just a command line tool. You can go into any one of these commands and ask for more information just by doing the command and then -help. It'll show you the subcommands. You can do the subcommand -help. You can do that ad infinitum. At some point, it'll actually show you all the options you can pass. For this command, help, verbose, JSON, and version are all supported. But some of the other commands actually have more options that you need to set, such as a location and things like that. After you've installed Azure, though, you need to install some credentials. So I'm going to do that. And this works oddly. It's going to try and launch a window, a browser window, and grab some, after you authenticate in that window, it's going to download a file. And it's going to fail. I've never gotten this to work. It doesn't launch properly, but it does actually report the URL it's going to try and launch. All right. It tried to launch to this page, gomicrosoft.com, yada yada yada. So I'm actually going to grab that, and I'm going to do that in an incognito window, just because if I'm logged into more than one, an incognito window is the best way to log into more than one Windows Live address at a time. It is downloading a file called 3 months from now .publish settings. If I oh, it's on my local machine. Sorry, I'll copy it up there. It's called 3-month free trial, and then a bunch of credentials. I'm just going to rsync that up to PitchMe. And now what I'm going to do is import that. Well, it said that worked. Let's try that again. There we go. Forgot the colon in the rsync, so it just created a local file with that name. But now it's here. Now if you can see, it's just a place with some encrypted credentials. Go back to Azure. And boy, I have forgotten. I think it is yeah, it's import. All right, what that did is it created a bunch of certificates. You can see them in the .azure directory that it also created. And with those credentials, now you can run the Azure commands. So the first thing you might want to do is list your running VMs. And again, it's just going to use those credentials that it finds by default. I actually gave it the credentials for the instance that it's actually running, so it knows about it, kind of knows about itself now. Earlier when we created the image, one of the things that I showed you was a list of different images that you could run. Here are the exact same image list, kind of in a machine parsable format. And and now you can actually launch one. How do you launch one? You go to Azure VM. We want to create a DNS name, an image name, a username, and a password. We'll do that. And I'm going to show you one of the issues. All right. So the DNS name I want to create is pitchme2. The image name I want to use is the canonical one, which is that big long guy right there. Just selected from the menu above. And what else do I need here? Username and password. All right. All right. So I've satisfied the command, but actually I haven't. Partly because I forgot the word create, but there's still going to be an issue. Location or affinity is required for a new cloud service. So I'm just going to go back and get a little more help and show you that more specific help. All right, so a location is required or affinity group. What I'm actually going to do is run the same command, and this time I'm actually going to add 2 parameters to it. The location is West US. You can have it list the locations, and you can choose a different one if you want. West US. You can also turn on SSH, and I recommend that. Otherwise, you won't be able to connect to it. You can import, if you've imported a key, you can give it that SSH key at this time. I'm not going to do that, so my first login to this virtual machine will be via the without an SSH key. Oh, I need 2 dashes. Sorry. Let's just be very specific. All right, we're about a quarter past. This creates the virtual machine. I'm going to go put some links into the PES meeting. That's the CLI setup. These are all of the links to Azure on Ben Howard's UT Lemmings blog. It forces you to create a password, and apparently backspace is a valid key in the password, so we won't. Oh, that was great. I'll try that again, and I'll try not to fat finger the password this time. I actually thought it would give me a second chance to enter a password. One of the things I'm going to show you after it finishes creating this VM is that there's different states a virtual machine can be in. Creating is the state you're seeing right now. Provisioning is another state. And I think the actual descriptions in the CLI are slightly different than what you see on the web page, but it's pretty easy to map one to the other. We'll do that as soon as that command returns. And let's see. I guess, all right, so here we go. I'm going to list the running VMs. That's what this command Azure VM list does. And you can see that one is ready role. The one we're actually logged into is ready. The other one is in a stop VM role. I'm going to check that again. I'm actually going to go look at the web page while I'm talking, and see if that in fact it does show up stopped. So I started it from the command line, and it's in a stopped state. So we can poke that guy. We're going to restart it. Now we're just started. I don't think we have to restart it. I think we just started. And I'm looking over in the portal window as well, and it actually has a state of starting. It may have started already. I didn't look right before I hit send. But at any rate, it is starting that VM. I backgrounded the command and just ran the list again. You can see it's in the starting VM state now. And it'll be in that state for a few minutes, or a few seconds at least. You can delete, you can create. I haven't found a command that creates a number of machines all at once, which is kind of a handy thing to do, like if you wanted to create 10 machines. So I believe right now you just need to put that in the for loop. Let's see. Let me go back to my notes, see if there was anything else I needed to point out. I'll create instances, delete them, log in with or without key. Okay, let's talk about key creation. You can use your normal SSH key, but you have to massage it a little bit with OpenSSL to put it into a format that Azure can use it. And the format that it can use, you may have seen me earlier when I created InfoSession 1, is a PEM file. Let me jump Windows here. So I created a PEM file. I'm going to see if I have that and scroll back. And I do not. But basically, you want to create you want to modify your public key and create a PEM file. I've got something on Ben's blog that talks about that. I'll see if I can pull it up right quick. And window. There we go. It looks like Scott Moser. Let me share a different window with you. This wasn't there the last time I looked. But Scott Moser has already put up a tool that actually does everything for you. It reads the default pub and writes the public key output. Let me share that. And I'm sharing it in part. I've put it in IRC, but I'm sharing it so people that watch this online can see it. Converting SSH. Probably not real easy to see there, but basically I had no luck with the command above. I had to provide it a PIM file, and basically you want to run the exact same command, but tell it to make a PIM file instead of a DER/CER file. And I think it's in part, I think part of the commands that Ben have up here work correctly, and it may just be that you don't need to do this with your private key. You want to do this with the public part of your key, which is what goes on that machine. So just be aware that this page is a little bit obsolete. I'm going to click on the link that Scott provided, which probably goes into more detail. And I assume it's going to use the same. Yeah, basically the OpenSSL command is the bottom line here. It outputs a DER, yada yada yada. So use Scott's script and you'll get the right kind of key. I haven't tried it yet, but I suspect that's the case. And we'll get that cleaned up, and you'll see something in an email from me if you're on the team in PES. Let me look to see if there's anything else I needed to discuss. All right, I just had a couple other topics. We've got a few minutes left. The other topics are that, so in addition to this Microsoft Cloud, you should be aware that infrastructure as a service, we've got a lot of options these days. Amazon's the original one with its Amazon Web Services. Rackspace provides infrastructure as a service. Canonistack, internal to Canonical, is an OpenStack instance. HP Cloud is an OpenStack instance. TriStack is a special OpenStack instance that is now also offering ARM server. Let's see. In addition to that, Google has recently announced a cloud as well. And we are working with all of these entities to make sure, as well as some that aren't public yet, to make sure that Ubuntu Cloud Images or Ubuntu Server works as well as possible and better than all the alternatives inside of any of these clouds. Are there any questions in IRC? I've got about a 10-second lag, so I'll wait. Or for the 2 or 3 people that are inside of the Hangout, do you guys have any questions? And Dan, did I answer your question? A couple of limitations. Currently, there's only the single cloud image that is the precise image. At some point, there may be other options. It is a 64-bit image. We're moving to make sure that all the cloud images have a 64-bit image, but we're not too concerned about creating 32-bit images. Let's see. I think so. YouTube is obviously still working. Dan says I answered his question. And I'm not seeing any questions in other channels. Let's see if I've got any chat issues up here. Just that folks entered and left the group chat. Okay, nothing in chat here. Okay, let's close that guy. I can run through a few more commands. But I think that's the bulk of them. Some of the commands, like the Azure site commands, have to do with the platform as a service instead of the infrastructure as a service. etc. I believe all these commands work, but the only ones I've used are the disk create. You can create an image. You can upload your own personal image to the cloud. That could be an Ubuntu image where you pre-installed a bunch of packages that you need, and that can be private to you. That by default, you would have to go to some efforts to make it public to anyone else, in fact. So by default, though, you can upload an image. It's uploading a VHD file, which is basically just a raw disk. So the 30 gig raw disk that we're running under was basically uploaded 1 bit at a time. I've done that. I've loaded up a custom Ubuntu image, and you have to create it in this basically raw disk format and upload it. And it's a pain, especially if you're doing it out of your household internet. So I recommend creating it in the cloud and doing it via the cloud. Find a cloud place you can work that has more space. Create a disk size you want, and that way all the network I/O is happening outside of your work from home environment. If you're working from an office, that may not be such a big deal. I think I've covered everything I hoped to cover, although it was a little bit less polished than I had hoped. Sorry about that. More questions? Any questions? And I'll take one more pass in IRC. I'm not seeing any nods of the head. Nobody's unmuted to ask anything, or I'm not hearing you. Looks like not. Okay. I think that's going to cover it for today's info session. We do have upcoming info sessions scheduled throughout the summer into the fall, right up until Ubuntu Developer Summit. Some of those go into some confidential information, so they will not be via Google Hangouts. So just be aware of that. And I think thanks, guys, Matt, Josh, and sounds like some people were hanging on. So glad it's worked out for some of you. And we'll return to our regularly scheduled PES meetings next week with Kyle Nitschke back on the mic, on the keyboard. Thanks, guys. I'm going to end this session. For those of you who participated live, very much appreciated.